Okay, good afternoon again, folks. And again, welcome to the first webinar of the new year. And we hope to have you here again next month and the months coming in 2021. For the first webinar of the year, we're going to try to talk about some insights into how mailing activity looks for the rest of the year. And joining us today is Doug Wiggins from the Postal Service. Doug is the manager of market research and insights and is responsible for the oversight of market research with both consumers and businesses, including providing key market and competitive insights in both the shipping and mailing segments. Doug joined the Postal Service back in 2016, serving on the market research and insights team with focuses in the digital customer experience and shipping market share. Previously, he led an initiative to combine USPS.com data survey data with internal metrics to determine the effects of service delays on customer satisfaction scores. That would probably be a very hot topic right now. More recently, he managed several research and data insights initiatives in the shipping and return space, which have supported key strategies for the organization. Doug graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology from Davidson College in 2012 and a master's in commerce from UVA in 2013. So as a psych major, he'll be wondering why you're asking questions today. But otherwise, we're happy to have him here. So Doug, please take it away.
Great, thanks, Leo. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. This is being recorded and the presentation will be shared afterwards. So if I'm going too fast, you'll certainly have an opportunity to go back to that content. So this is our Mail Moments study for fall 2020. We have had a version of this study for a long time, actually even further back than you'll see on this slide. And the idea in the mid-2000s was to get a trended view of how the public is interacting with traditional mail. So as you can see, we've increased how frequently we fielded, going from an occasional view in December 2012 and March 2016 to pretty much twice a year since the fall of 2017. The way this works is it's two surveys in tandem, with half of our participants being assigned the Mail Moment study, which focuses on mail engagement. How often do you check your mail? What types of mail do you get? What types of mail do you like? How much time do you spend engaging with it? How has that changed over time? And then a second questionnaire on billing, looking entirely at how you receive your bills, how you present them, and importantly, how that differs by what type of bill it is, whether that's a medical bill or a credit card bill or utilities bill, and what's your channel preference then, depending on what type of bill you're receiving and how that's changed over time. Our participant requirements, everyone's between 18 and 75 years old. It's a head of household who must be involved in mail sorting, making shopping lists, and/or bill management. And then other major demographics are matched to census data, a slight skew with a few more female participants on gender. You will see a lot of generation cuts in this deck, trying to see how different cohorts interact with the mail. And there's lots of different definitions around it, but we've been going with the Pew Research Center definitions. We don't quite have enough 18-plus-year-olds that are of Gen Z to break out. Our sample is a little too small for that, so you won't see them in the data really. But then Gen Y, Gen X, baby boomers, all by birth year. We've got kind of three main sections here. First, a section on attitudes from the COVID-19 pandemic. Then the main Mail Moments section that's all about receiving mail, engaging with mail, what types of mail do you engage with, and then finally the bill presentment section near the end. This executive summary, everything in here is covered within the deck, so I'm not going to read through all of these bullets right now, but it's a useful tool once you get the PDF if you're trying to look back on what some of the main points were from the deck. So with that, we'll jump right in. These were some questions we added in the spring based on, what has been the effect of the COVID-19 effect on checking mail. A lot of our respondents, 61%, say they check it about the same amount as they used to, and then a 19% and 19% split of those checking more or less often. In terms of generational splits, millennials were more likely to say that it's had an effect, had a change, but you can see it's pretty balanced on whether or not they said it was more or less engagement with mail than prior to the pandemic. How much do you agree with these statements during the pandemic? Do you feel safe opening and sorting the mail? Most people say yes, 78%. 72% receiving mail is essential for me and my household during the pandemic. And 59%, I rely on the mail for my communication needs during the pandemic. A few more folks disagreeing on that one, 15% saying that they somewhat or completely disagree. This is a question on informed delivery. Are you giving more or less attention to mail previewed and informed delivery during the pandemic? Just 10% of respondents said less, 57% of respondents say more. So even though they're not necessarily physically checking their mail more often during this time, they express that they're spending more time with their informed delivery. So still viewing a lot of their mail through that platform. Now the base here, of course, are folks who are already signed up for informed delivery. This is asking, what precautions have you taken due to the pandemic? 44% say that they clean or sanitize packages before bringing it into their home. 37% let their packages sit outside. Same idea for mail, 39% cleaning mail before bringing it in, and 38% letting their mail sit outside before bringing it in their home. And you can see that Gen Y and Gen X are a little bit more likely to take a precaution in this manner. So getting right into our normal bucket of questions, we always start with this as our baseline. How often do you collect mail in a week? And so 52% of respondents in this wave said that they collect it 6 days a week or every day that it's available. And that's an 11-point dip from what we saw back in spring 2020. So definitely out of the norm. It was a pretty flat trend line before this particular wave. So, we believe that the pandemic may be having an effect on how often folks are checking. Baby boomers are much more likely to check 6 days a week. 76% say that they do, down to 35% of millennials saying that they check 6 days a week. And you can see kind of in the tail there how they did answer with kind of roughly even buckets across 2, 3, 4, and 5 days a week. What type of mailbox do you have? 39% say curbside, 16% say an inside cluster. So think of an apartment complex with unit boxes inside. 12% say an outside cluster, which could also be apartment complexes. There are also neighborhood outside clusters. Porch or door box, 21%. A door slot, 7%, and PO box, 4%. And you can see how that breaks out by the generational cuts here. So the baby boomers and Gen X a little more likely to have a curbside mailbox than Gen Y. So this is a busy chart, but the basic idea is looking at frequency of collection, but this time by your type of mailbox. Now, the one I kind of want to asterisk right away is door slot. We've had a hard time figuring out, why the answers are the way that they are here. In my head, door slot would be kind of an automatic check every day, but that's not how our survey respondents have taken it. The question is there below, approximately how often does someone in your household collect mail that has been delivered to your mailbox? So it's ultimately on the respondent to decide how they want to interpret that. But I think what makes more sense are the top two here: curbside and porch or door box. These standalone mailboxes, people are more likely to engage as frequently as possible. The clusters outside and inside, a little bit lower, and then a PO box, the lowest frequency of checking. Same idea, but the split here is both type of mailbox and generational cut. I wanted to look at this because I was trying to figure out if frequency of collecting was more of a stage of life effect or a type of mailbox effect. As most things are when you ask that type of either or question, the answer is both, as you'll see on the slide. Baby boomers, regardless of what type of mailbox they have, are more likely to check 6 days a week compared to Gen X and Gen Y. But those standalone mailboxes, curbside and porch door box, are also more likely, no matter what generation it is, than any sort of cluster box scenario, to be collecting 6 days a week. So why do you check your mail? You're able to look at all of these statements and select as many as you think apply as possible. The biggest one here is I'm checking to see if I'm receiving any important items, so bills, legal documents, something out of the ordinary that really matters, all the way down to I typically only check my mail when I know I'm going to be receiving something I'm expecting. This slide has pretty much looked similar over time the past few years. This one's maybe a little more interesting. It's the same slide, but cut by generation. And the interesting part from our perspective is towards the bottom of the slide, actually. So people agreeing with this statement: items I receive in the mail help me run my household more efficiently. And I wanted to get a mail piece that I saw in my informed delivery. The younger two generations, Gen X and Gen Y, more likely to agree with that statement. How much attention do you give to mail? You can see the statements there in red and green. I do not give mail much attention, versus I like to discover what the mail brings every day and consider the time spent looking at it and reading mail time well spent. 41% agreed with that statement. 31% said a moderately high agreement. 21% said moderately low, and 7% said low. That 72% combined is down slightly from fall 2019, when it was 77%. So another set of attitudinal statements, receiving a handwritten letter, note, or greeting card in the mail still has a lot of value for me. 87% of our respondents agreed with that. I take the time to look through my mail to make sure I'm not discarding useful information, also 87%. And then on down the line, a majority of respondents agreed with all of these statements, on down to I worry less about privacy with mail than with digital communication, which is a stat we like to see here at USPS, that people, at least given the choice, still trust mail as a communication channel. And this is the same slide, but split by generation, cut, with baby boomers more likely to agree with statement 1 and statement 3. I would be upset if I no longer received mail. But again, across the board, the majority of respondents, regardless of generation, agreeing with all of these statements. This is importance of mail compared to 3 years ago. Just 9% of respondents said that it's less important than it used to be. 44% say it's the same, and 47% say that it's more important than it used to be. And that's actually up from spring 2020. If you think of this survey being taken in October, we were in the news quite a bit. First for being essential workers early in the pandemic, when there were more strict lockdowns across the country, and then again in the fall as people started to vote by mail or receive election mail. So that's our hypothesis as to why that number came up. In terms of how it's changed compared to 3 years ago. Gen X and millennials a majority of them say it's more important. We're trying to dive into this and see if this is more of a stage of life situation. Sample size of 1, your narrator here. It's definitely more important for me than it was 3 years ago, as I get more Christmas cards, wedding invitations, baby announcements than it was, 3 or even 5 years ago when I wasn't getting as much as that. So we're trying to figure out if these generations are likely to behave like their predecessors as they age into different stages of life. Real quick, do you pick up mail at the first opportunity? 84% of respondents say yes. That's been consistent over time. And then did you sort your most recent mail delivery at your first opportunity? Basically, bringing it in, do you immediately go through and sort it, or do you just leave the bundle on the kitchen counter and come back to it later? How much time do you spend sorting mail? This has gone up in both cases, so up to an average of 5 minutes sorting mail in fall of 2020, and up to 8.5 minutes opening and reading mail, and that's gone up, as you can see, across the past 4 waves. Baby boomers most likely to spend less amount of time doing each. Millennials likely to spend more time doing each, and we think this tracks, just given that if you're collecting mail every day, you might not need to spend as much time going through your bundle. Whereas if you're a millennial who's not checking every day, you may get more of a buildup, and that may drive more time spent. So what types of mail did you receive in your last bundle? Hopefully interesting to this audience, but ad mail in connection with a credit card, bank, or financial company was the #1 mail type, 63%. Ad mail from local businesses where I shop, 60%. On down the line, breaking up retailers, companies, and local businesses, both ones that you've already shopped at before or ones where you don't shop. So more of a upsell or existing customer relation touch point versus, that pure acquisition play where the recipient doesn't already have a relationship with that company. Same exact slide. If you've received any of these mail types, do you like receiving that type of mail, or do you not? And 71% saying that they like receiving magazines that I have a subscription to. That makes sense as the top one, right? I'd be curious about the 4% who say that they dislike receiving their magazines. They may want to update their preferences there. But more interesting is this next section where there's a function of both. Do you already have a relationship with that business? And then local businesses in particular are really welcome to get ad mail from there. So both of those things, the locality and already having a relationship, seems to drive these positive feelings towards receiving that type of mail. And then at the bottom, the largest mail type for us, right? Ad mail in connection with a credit card, bank, or financial company, about an even split. 31% saying they like receiving that, 31% saying that they do not. This one kind of aligns in a similar way. What actions do you take with these different types of marketing mail, with opening / reading and keeping on the left, up to 50% saying they do that with magazines they have a subscription to, and then discard without reading on the right, with those lower engagement items. Ad mail from places I don't shop, ad mail from retailers I have not purchased before, company I've not bought from before. So those kind of pure acquisition plays, lower engagement than the top part of this chart here. These are, again, another set of attitudinal statements, this time about marketing mail. I tend to read through the marketing mail I receive instead of discarding without reading. I'm more likely to make a purchase from a company that advertises to me through both mail and digital methods. I prefer to shop at stores that advertise me in the mail. and I regularly purchase items featured in marketing mail. All of these kind of shot up in fall 2020, particularly those last 3 attributes, up from kind of what their baseline had been in previous times that we'd asked. On the right side, you can see the generational split with Gen X and Gen Y more likely to agree with these 3 statements than boomers, who maybe have had their fill of marketing mail at this point. So here, the frequency of marketing mail actions. Do you bring this advertisement into a retail store? Does it prompt you to go online? And if so, how frequently is that? Then on the right side, the top 2 combined box over time by generation to bring into a retail store and use as a prompt to go online. In both cases, ticking up a little bit from fall 2019. Marketing mail effectiveness. When was the last time that you tried a new product / service after receiving marketing mail within the past month, 2 to 3 months ago, down the line to over a year or never? Past 6 months trial combined 57%, which is up directionally from the past few times that we've asked this. The most common type of product service establishment tried is restaurants. We've seen that consistently over time, and then on down to retail, health and beauty, all the way down to real estate or telecommunications. And this is just a trended view of how recently you've tried something new. A little bit of a dip for within the past month in the spring, but rebounding here in fall of 2020. So you can see here, there's not necessarily huge splits on some of these industries in terms of did it drive you to try something new. Restaurants still were down quite a bit in fall of 2020, and then on the left side you can see which segments millennials were more likely to have responded to than boomers. Auto service, home or lawn service, health and beauty, all standing out there. Won't spend a lot of time here, but just coupon booklets. Do you engage with it every time or most of the time? This is a slide we like on informed delivery users. Basically, how are they responding to our interactive ads? And so that's where a company has chosen to, they have a marketing mail piece with us, and then they also have a clickable interactive ad within the informed delivery experience. So if you see this ad in your digest, you could then immediately go and click to that website. So in effect, it's hitting you from 2 different angles, both the ad you will eventually receive physically in the mail, but also that very same ad that we collaborate with these companies on to decide how it shows up within your digest. We can put it in color, we can make it clickable, and this is how people have responded. So 69% have seen some kind of interactive ad in the past 6 months. 69% of informed delivery users. Of that 69%, this is a funnel. 82% have clicked on an interactive ad, and then finally 70% of that 82% went on to purchase from the website access. So if these people are engaging, that's pretty good, right? 70% report having gone on to purchase from a website. 30% have planned to purchase from the website. 8% didn't plan to purchase from the website. You can select both of those first 2 options, which is why it adds up a little bit over 100. So I should caveat this, again, this was October, so these are not respondents who have gone through our past couple months of service. So as of October, 69% of respondents had an excellent or very good experience with their postal carrier in the past month. That is down a little directionally from earlier waves. You can see that was a 77% mark in fall of 2018. It was down to 73% in spring of 2020. 47% of customers reported experiencing a problem within the last month, and that's up quite a bit from previous waves. You can see the trend line there. 23% in fall of 2018, 28% as recently as spring 2020, up quite a bit, and up across all three generations that we're tracking here. The slide on missed delivery. Have you received items to the wrong address or person not living in the household? 33% reported that they had, and then you can see the frequency. Most people say it's not very common. It's less than once a month, but it can happen. It's more likely, millennials are more likely to report this happening. I think that makes sense if people are still moving around a lot. If you're in an apartment, it makes it likely that you're going to get maybe a previous tenant's mail, as an example. So that's mail moments. We're shifting gears here to bill management. So this is another set of census representative consumers, but they're taking these questions on their own. So they won't have been exposed to the mail moments questions that I showed earlier. This is looking at what methods do you use for financial management over time. 45% say they use a bank website, which has come down a little bit from early 2019. And then the ones going up are computer software or personal finance applications, so some sort of third-party management. An example would be Credit Karma or Mint.com, and we're seeing a little bit of an uptick there. How many bills have you received in the past month? And we're also asking folks to say how many bills they've received electronically or by mail. So the most common bill are utilities, a little bit over half of which are presented by mail, 1.5 bills per month, on down the line to loans or education. Members of Gen X had the largest number of bills reported per month, so 10.6. This is just trended over time. You can see by segment, not a lot of huge changes over the past 2 years in terms of bills received. This is looking at number of bills received by generation. Baby boomers report a higher number of utility bills received per month than millennials on the left side there. They also report more credit card bills per month. And then it evens out a little bit in the middle section there before getting to the end, where for education bills, millennials were more likely, as were Gen X, to report having received one in the past month. So how have bills arrived? A little over half arrived by mail, 55%. That's down slightly from fall of 2019, which was 59%. But an interesting thing here, really no effect by generation. A similar split across the board in terms of percent of bills that arrive by mail versus electronically. So this, to me, is one of the more interesting slides in the deck. How does this differ by type of bill? So the two in the middle there, insurance and credit card, you can see 53% of credit card bills are electronic and 50% of insurance. So these financial institutions, it's more like half and half. But then as you get to the top, education or childcare related bills, 60% are physical, and a whopping 75% of medical related bills arrive by mail. So this is looking at preference over time. Do you have a preference for one type of channel or another? for bill presentment. 30% of consumers saying they have a strong electronic preference. And then on the right side, 25% saying that they have a strong mail preference. How often do you print electronic bills? So if you are getting them, do you still like having a physical copy? 39% say never, but you can see on the line up there to the top right corner, 11% say frequently and 14% say always. Conversely, if you receive a paper bill, do you throw it away immediately? 16% say yes. 39% say they keep it until they've paid it, and then 45% keep an ongoing record of paper bills. So much like in the mail moment section, we asked this large bucket of attributes about bills. So you can agree with as many of these statements as you choose to as a respondent. I find it easier to organize plan bills if they're all on paper. 61% of respondents say that they agree with that statement, and that's a pretty consistent trend line over time. So there's still value in that physical bill for a lot of our respondents. You can see it's much easier to manage electronic bills, is also, though, something that people agree with. So it's sort of a mixed story within the top two attributes. It's much easier to manage electronic bills. 67% of millennials and Gen X agree with that statement, compared to 47% of baby boomers. I prefer receiving bills electronically because I can get them faster. Similar split. And then finally, I don't like the negative impact paper bills have on the environment. Again, a pretty similar split to the first two attributes here. So we were talking about receiving bills. This is all about paying bills. What method do you use for that, and how does it differ by what type of bills that you received? So for bills that you received in the mail, 28% of consumers paid it through an online or mobile app, 25% through an automatic deduction, and 24% actually mail back their bill. So more business for us. Not as many folks paying in person or by phone. For bills that received electronically, higher numbers for those first two, 41% on an online or mobile app, 39% through an automatic deduction, and not very many. It's pretty rare to pay by mail if you receive the bill electronically. How important is the option to receive bills by mail? 69% say it's very or somewhat important. And that, again, the breakdown there is pretty similar across the three generations we're tracking. 13% say it's very or somewhat unimportant. So not too surprising. People like to have options, and that's definitely true here. They want the ability to choose whether they receive bills by mail or electronically. So I know we don't have a lot of interest in packages, so I won't spend a lot of time here. But the reason we included this in the mail moment study, we have a lot of other studies on packages, is we're trying to figure out how, if packages drive engagement with the mailbox. First off, you can see people received more packages than a year ago. I think we all know that if you follow the news. Package volumes have skyrocketed no matter who your carrier is. Mailbox frequency checking, people say that it's gone up in this section. And then there's kind of that combined view. I'm getting more packages and I'm checking my mailbox more frequently. It's our first look at this. We're still trying to figure out exactly what we want to say and do about it. But from USPS's perspective, it's nice to understand how the two interact, and that receiving packages may lead you to check your mailbox more frequently. And you can see that's one of the top reasons given for why you might check your mailbox more often than you used to. 31% of people agreed with that. 17% said it was because they were receiving more mail or more bills, and 15% said, see if I received any important items, which we leave up to the respondent to decide what that means. 83% of folks say they will check their mailbox sooner if they know that they have a package. But we also hear number 2 there, that packages aren't always going to fit within a mailbox. So that is it. I know I took that quickly at pace, but we had over 55 slides, so I wanted to make sure that we got everything. You know, I'm happy to talk at all about any of the content that we just shared. If anyone has any questions, Leo, I'm not sure if you've been fielding them while I've been rambling.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. While you were rambling, no, Doug, I do have a question here, and that is, how do the findings of the USPS Customer and Market Insight Surveys presented today compare with the findings of the USPS Household Diary Study?
Right. So they're used in a little bit different way. They're actually run by different departments. The household diary lives in finance, and you know, the real purpose of mail moments is to capture attitudes over time towards mail, whereas the household diary is to really get in the weeds with volumes and what you're getting and what you're doing in a more specific way. But mail moments is used predominantly by our sales department, by our marketing department, as stats for, you know, why mail is or is not valuable to some segments of the population.
Okay, thank you. One thing I saw was kind of interesting was the slides that indicated how people's, you know, activities tend to be consistent over time in some ways, what they like or don't like, and their attitude towards what's in the mailbox. And I was wondering if you could comment on how this would support the importance of targeting to make sure that what you get in the mailbox is something that you are going to want to see, and that the sender was smart to send to you, as opposed to something that was going to be going to somebody who doesn't want to see it. I can see you going back there to some of those things. I know that I get every so often a bunch of credit card solicitations, and that I'm not looking for credit cards. Does this mean that the
Right.
credit card companies and their commercial mailing partners should be more attentive to better targeting?
You know, perhaps. I think the challenge with credit cards is people report getting so many ads that, you know, it's unclear if it's how well that it's optimized for new acquisition, and you know, these may be companies that you aren't already working with, right? So it might not be your bank or your existing credit card provider reaching out to you. But I think the key here is the split between you know, companies that, you know, to me, I see a lot of upsell opportunity on this slide. Basically, stores where you already have a relationship and trying to get you to come back in with a new deal or a new promotion, coupon booklets for local businesses, catalogs from companies I've bought from before, and also value locally, you know, which makes sense for us based on our ability to allow advertisers to target regionally, to target a specific carrier route. So I think, you know, we don't get into maybe within segment differentiation here, which might be your question in terms of, you know, are some credit card companies having a better time of it mailing with us than others? I'm sure the answer is yes, but that's not really captured in this data.
And in your transactional slides, I know you had a lot of information about how much billing is going on electronically. Do you have any statistics, or is there any kind of anecdotal data about how the message on many bills about saving paper, saving trees, and getting getting messages and bills electronically, about how much effect that's having on the trend towards electronic billing?
That's a great question. We do not on this side. What we've seen since 2012 is there was a big initial fall off of people migrating to electronic bill payment. That's kind of flattened out. But in terms of campaigns that are based around convenience versus, environmental impact, we do not have that tracked in this study.
I know there was a lot of accusations at the time of greenwashing, saying that the notion that having my electric bill come electronically rather than on paper was not as significant a savings for the world's trees as they would like to have you think. Another question we got was, now that you're starting to see a lot of restaurants and retail businesses really get into a point of serious decision about whether they're going to survive or not, is this a time at which commercial mailers should be contacting such clients in hopes that they can use the mail to drive business to either their websites or to for example, to pick up, to curbside pickup for things? Is that an opportunity that you see for commercial mailers to build business from their clients?
Yeah. So there's initially a big shock that we saw across mailing in the early spring, right when lockdown started, and we've seen a bit of a recovery here. The projections that I've seen say that marketing budgets should recover in 2021. Now that's looking at an aggregated level, and so there may be differences between businesses, but there's a lot of optimism that people will be able to stick to plan, and right now they're planning on spending more on marketing in general, not necessarily marketing mail, but we would love if they did, right? But that marketing budgets would recover in 2021.
Okay, thanks. Now, of course, I wouldn't be doing some of our listeners a favor if I didn't ask you about this. But do you think the Postal Service is going to have to do something later in the year to restore advertisers' confidence, given the serious problems they've had with service? Admittedly, these are serious problems for a good cause because of illness and a variety of other things. But do you think they're going to have to go back and reinforce the value of mail in the minds of marketers?
Well, we certainly intend to build trust. You kind of hit the nail on the head, right? The first thing that we're working on is getting through the deluge of volume we've received, and people in the field are working very hard to get through the backlogs there. And then the correct order though is getting our service levels back to what customers have come to expect from us, and then absolutely, I think there'll be a messaging push as well.
If I could put a bug in Steve Monteith's ear, I think that would be very good to have some sort of campaign to say, essentially, yeah, we've had a really tough winter, but mail still works, and we hope you continue to use it. That would help not only the Postal Service, but the thousands of companies in the mailing industry who depend upon the Postal Service and their clients using the mail for their own survival. So that'd be really, really handy. Let's see.
Leo, I'm very happy to relay directly to Steve and to our new VP of Marketing your perspective.
Yes, that would be good. Thank you.
But I don't disagree. I should say that that I think that the messaging will be important, but it will fall flat if we aren't yet back at the service levels that we expect and that you guys expect.
Right. And I think everybody will be happy when this whole pandemic is eased to the point where the Postal Service has more complete staffing levels, and where businesses can reopen safely and people can once again engage in business and use the mail to promote their businesses. That'll be a good thing, but we all just have to kind of wait and see how long it takes for that to happen. Well, the queue is empty here. The questions have all been answered. I don't see anything else coming in. So I want to thank you, Doug, for a really interesting presentation. I hope folks will download a copy of it and keep it, because there's some great insights here about people's behavior, people's preferences, and of course how those can be used to improve the types of mail that are sent to those individuals. It's important that as marketing budgets tighten up, that the use of the mail is continued and that it's used in the best way possible to get the best results for the folks who pay the postage. So thank you again to all of our attendees today. Thank you again to you, Doug, and thanks to Michelle for being over there keeping the lights on. So I think that is probably the end for today. Let's everybody get back to work. We look forward to seeing everybody back here in a month for our next webinar. And until that time, thank you again. We'll see you then. Stay safe.